bit of spice, aluminum foil wrap.
Anyway.
You waste no time, man.
No, not
I
at
heard
all.
you already got a motor.
Already got an engine, back of my truck as we speak. And not only do we have an engine, we got a transmission too.
Dude. Wow. All right. Obviously an LS.
Obviously, well, technically, this is a LY4 engine. An LS is always a aluminum block. This is a cast iron block. It's 6 liter, or they have the LQ9 that is the same package, just with higher compression. We got this whole engine as is with ECU, complete wiring harness, what you see, for 1,800 bucks. Also, I picked up a T56 transmission for 1,500 bucks. A local guy took it out of an F-body. So, I mean, I can't do math in my head, Ron. You gotta help me with 1,800, 1,500.
If I knew how to do math, I would not be working here, that is for sure. I'm just kidding. Of course I'd be working here. I love working at Hoonigan. This thing is clean, man. How many miles are on it?
I think the guy told me 140,000.
Okay.
It's still red, 190 PSI across, like all cylinders on the leak down test. So I feel confident in it. I feel like I should be able to do minimal things to kind of do to keep this engine alive. Usually the valve train doesn't last too long, but we're gonna set the limiter, you know, maybe around like 6,200 RPMs. Hopefully the lifters will last. I do wanna put a cam in it. We're gonna do some bolt-on mods, intake, throttle body, just to give us a little bit more, you know, power. I'm shooting for around, we like 400, 450. If we can get at least 350 to the wheels, Josh is a happy camper.
I think 350 NA to the wheels with that should be pretty
For
doable.
sure. And
which is some
especially after we
budget
gut
stuff.
the car, and it's going to be like 3,000 pounds or 2,800. I don't know. I mean, it's a big car.
Yeah.
Cars are big cars.
But that's the interesting thing about grid is, like, unlike drifting or road racing or a lot of stuff, it's not really even as much about peak power. It's all about that power band you can have, because you want not the highest wheel speed in the world when you're going around an obstacle.
The great thing about drift is that we're still all figuring it out. There's like, you know, some people have a method to their madness, but sometimes other people have a method to their madness. This is all a big game of trial and error, and that's the wonderful world of drifting that we live in, is because everyone's innovating, everyone's changing this. I mean, you got JZ, you got LS, you got rotary. There's so many different packages as well as suspension packages. But for those of you that don't have the baller budget like what, you know, Peter and James do, or any of these pro guys, realistically, guys, dollar per horsepower, this is what you need.
All right, I said I'm not good at math before, but I feel like that is my #1 motivator to learn math. Dollar per horsepower? Dude, that's kind of a sick way to calculate the way you're building a car.
If you really think about it, I mean, I kind of sat there and I kind of didn't want to do it. I bought all these parts for my motor and everything. We dynoed it, and I was kind of like, so Josh, how much did it cost you to build that motor? I honestly, like, I didn't want to add it up, but one night, late at night, I just went through all my invoices, receipts, whatever. It was, I think, around 10.5, something like that. But again, if I was to build, you know, a Coyote motor, it was gonna cost me around 20 grand. And, you know, this stuff is everywhere, guys. Like, you can find LS stuff no matter whether it's brand new on, you know, say, you know, the internet or OfferUp, Craigslist. Like, you don't need these crazy expensive parts to get torque and horsepower of these motors.
Speaking of Chevy motors, hey.
What's up, Josh? What are you doing with it?
I'm just explaining my truck motor and how awesome it is.
You got the 9 or the 4?
We got the 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 6.0.
6.0.
All right.
Are you going forced induction or no?
No, we didn't have that in our $10,000 budget.
All right,
so
all right.
We're gonna stick to NA. We tried to, you know, think about doing some nitrous, but at the same time, we got plenty of power. We're not worried about it.
So, what's the difference in compression from the 4 to the 9?
So the 4 to the 9, the 4, from the last I read, don't quote me on it, it's probably around 9 to 1. And then I think the LQ9 is around like 10 to 1. This whole process of like getting this motor is also a big learning curve to me, because there's so many different combinations that everyone's doing with these motors. So it's kind of hard to, you know, keep up when there's so many different packages. You know, it's like, what is the usual package with like a JZ? You take a 1JZ, or you take a 2JZ block with a 1J head.
Yeah, you can go a couple ways actually, but yeah, the most popular, the 1.5 JZ is the 2 liter block,
right.
Or sorry, the 3 liter block with the 1.5 J head.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then, but that's like the most common, that's the kind of 1 of 3 JZ things versus like an LS. There's like
Endless. I know
you know,
so embarrassingly little about these motors, so this whole time you're taking me to school, man.
I'm still learning.
I see it's got It's got a clutch on it.
For sure.
I'm assuming this was used in
Yeah,
in a
it was
swap
used.
car.
It was used.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's used, but
Look
like,
at that.
you know.
What a nice guy.
Yeah.
Included the
What?
clutch tool zip tied to there.
Damn.
Usually that's the first thing to get chucked in the garbage.
The only thing that is actually kind of sketchy though is that I seen the clutch, but when you really look in there, the pilot bearing isn't in the crankshaft.
Oh, sick.
Which your input, so pilot bearing holds your input shaft from your transmission. Well, that's not there, meaning your input shaft is probably vibrating inside the clutch. So
It's getting a little wobbly.
gotta track down a bearing and hopefully it didn't mess up any bearings or any seals or anything.
You know, I was just talking to my buddy that has like had some like really crazy ass LS cars, like you know, like a sick GTO and a sick like Trans Am, and he's like, you can beat on a T56 with 600 horsepower all day long. I'm talking like launching it.
There's two different styles of T56s. You have an LT T56 and you have an LS T56. Now, the difference is from here back, they're all the same, but you have your bell housing and you have your, many people call them different things, either an end plate or front plate. You have to swap these two components to make it a LS or LT, as well as the input shaft. The lengths are different. I think the LS one is shorter while the LT is longer. You could pick up essentially a LT T56 for around maybe like $900 or something like that, and then put in another $400 in, you know, a bell housing and end plate, and then the input shaft, and actually make it a LS version.
You learn something new every day.
Yes, you do.
That's crazy. That's pretty sick. Race car shit.
Race car shit. Balling on a budget.
Balling on a budget.
We're gonna be squinting.
Squinting.
I'm s-
Building battle. Building battle bonus.
Where's that 70 SPF right now?
Seriously, man.
California. It's October.